Ndị Igbo ekene m unu. Asị m ka nke echukwelu ya zelu. Anyị si ndụ mmiri ndụ azụ. Mmiri atara m azụ anwụra. Asa dịrị mma na eke, dịrị mma na orie, fọzara mma na afọ, fọzara mma na nkwọ, ụzọ ahịa anọ nke ndị Igbo ji biri. Asị na ya dịrị n'Igbo na mma o. Ise, ise, ise. Dịka o si dị ka agbapụ na ya ọsọ igosi na ya bụ ife anyị ji maka ya wee bịa. Na tupu anyị aga n'igosi na ya bụ ife, ọ bụla nke a bụ ụbọchị izu gị. Ị na-ejete afọ channel aya n'Igbo akwụkwọ ka baro ka like and subscribe o. Tinyekwa kọmentị, share ekwe ya, tụsa ya bụ ozi ka ụmụnne anyị dị n'ebe dị iche iche wee na ya bụ ife na-eme n'obodo a. Dịka o si dị, ihe wetara unu tata bụ nnukwu update dị oke mkpa. Mma nchọ ka onye ọbụla misie ya. Mma nchọ ka ị ga ya bụ ife, ị ga-esi ya bụ ife wetara unu gbasa maka ya bụ ife na-eme n'obodo anyị nọ n'ime ya. And nwere ndị Igbo na-azọ drop your own comment
as for that particular protest, and this is the reason why Nigerians, they are warming up another protest in October. So yesterday, the Nigeria government arraigned 10 protesters out of more than 100 protesters that Nigeria government arrested on the charges of treasonable activities. Just as Denji said, that these people, they are really calling for anarchy. Like, Nigeria government is supposed to be very, very busy now, especially our security agencies, going after the bandits, going after the kidnappers, like all the insecurity that is happening in Nigeria, that making Nigerians uncomfortable. Like, that is what we are supposed to be talking about. Not to going about arresting protesters, even the anti-protesters that attack the protesters, as well as some of the journalists that were reporting the event. Like, how many of them the Nigeria government arrested? Even the 10 protesters that were in the court yesterday, they are all from Abuja. So what is Abuja protesters doing with treasonable activities? So my people, let me allow you guys so that you can listen to what Denji said here, because he was with the protesters yesterday in the court. And before then, please, if today is your first time, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.
Yes. Deji, let me start with you, because I know that during the protest we had you came here and you're one of those who were in the streets protesting in Abuja as at that time. Were the charges now leveled against those that were arrested? Because these persons that were arrested were those that took part in that protest where you were also there. When the charges leveled against them, aren't you also afraid that the government will come after you? Well, a part of those.
I would be delighted if I'm charged for treasonable felony. I would be delighted for protesting. After all, terrorists are enjoying this government, and none of them have been charged in the last 1 year.
How do you know about that?
Show me an instance where terrorists have been terrorizing and kidnapping people in Kaduna, in Zamfara, in Sokoto, in Kebbi, all across the country. One instance where terrorists were charged, where one terrorist has been declared wanted in the last 1 year, like the way protesters have just been declared. You know, it's a shame that this is the best joke they could come up with. And they are not even laughing to their funny jokes. Very hilarious, I must say. Are we not all entertained by the clowns and the gestures that we are witnessing all over the country today? Indeed, I am entertained, and I think you should be entertained as well. You know, unfortunately, it's a dangerous joke, because this is, in fact, what they are afraid of is what they are eventually encouraging. You know, I do not see why anyone would be scared of protest. What they are trying to do is to criminalize protest implicita, to ensure that citizens, when people hear, some people have been charged for treasonable felony, me, I don't want to protest again. No. So they are trying to, one of the protesters was arrested in church yesterday. Yesterday in church, was arrested in church. Members of the church resisted and said, why will you arrest anybody and even come to the church of God to arrest the person because of protest? Do you know what the police officers who went to arrest him told the church people, just so that they can get away with the guy? They said he was an armed robber. That the guy is an armed robber. They arrested a journalist in Port Harcourt. They announced on the flight, they made sure everybody boarded the flight. Then they announced on the flight that the guy is a kidnapper on the flight. These are the kind of people that are in power. This grab it, snatch it, run with it fellow, he has been protesting all his life. is a product, he is one of the chief beneficiary of June 12 struggle. A struggle that was brought to light by protest. These are people, look at all the people today. You see policemen acting like politicians, making careless remarks. These are the things that made military rule possible in the first place.
But we're not praying for that in Nigeria.
Nobody is praying for military rule, but you can see what these guys are doing. And people are watching them and taking notes. This was the reason. Go and check all through history. Look at what has just happened in Bangladesh. Senseless politicians behaving like mad people all over the country in Bangladesh was why the democratically elected government in Bangladesh was removed. You understand? These guys should be careful. Nobody wants military to come back to this country. The reason why I cannot speak about the arraignment of the protesters is I'm one of the lawyers to the protesters.
Okay.
I'm representing the 6th, 7th, and 8th defendant in that matter. So I will not make any remarks that will be sub judice. So I will refrain from speaking about the matter in court. But I can tell you for free that what the current government is doing is inviting anarchy. Because you have seen how bloody the Shiite protests became. When you make peaceful protests impossible, because people just have to vent. People cannot be making bad economic policies back to back. And you're telling people that people cannot protest, that protest is now treasonable felony. People were arrested. People homes were broken. People were abducted for protesting, and you call that treasonable felony. And terrorists are dancing and sharing their location on TikTok as we speak. An emir was kidnapped in this country by terrorists. That does not anger the government. But what angers the government is protest. These guys even have the guts to call people like even me. They called me to threaten me that I should stop supporting the protesters. Can you just imagine in a democracy? What, you got a call? Yeah, of course. I've gotten several calls from security agencies in this country threatening me to stop supporting the protesters. In a democracy, even the military regime, the protests were happening under the military regime. And how is this government different from the military regime? How is this government different from any military regime? Because if the idea is to dissuade people from calling for military incursion, which many of us have condemned, then you are doing worse than the military did. You are violating people's rights. You are breaking into people's homes. You are trying to criminalize free speech. You are trying to criminalize journalism. You are trying to criminalize protests. And you say people should not wave flags, which of course apparently we have condemned. The government should stop fueling the agitation for raising of flags. The government should stop funding the agitation for people to begin to hate democracy. Because if the government continues this way, more people will begin to hate democracy. And this government is the number one demarcator of the current democracy that we enjoy in the country, not the protesters. The protesters are saying they want bad governance.
Deji, before I go to Barrister Otapipo, I need to ask you this question because you were on the streets during the protest.
Yes, sir.
Since we don't want to talk about the matter before the court, and that protest, because let me just mention what the lawyer to the federal government said. I think at the beginning of this program, he mentioned that a foreigner was inciting. He was causing inducement.
That's media publicity. A senior advocate of Nigeria should know the rule of operational conduct. He should not be doing that.
Okay.
Because the man is already charged before the court. The rules of professional conduct forbids a lawyer who is in the matter to be still diving into the arena and be making conclusions and passing judgments. That is professional misconduct.
Let me also say this. He said it is not an issue of protest, but that of inciting mutiny.
He does not. Listen, a lawyer who is interested and involved in a matter should refrain from making extrajudicial comments on a matter that the court is already seized of. Okay, the court is already seized on the matter, so I will not respond to him.
Okay, what about when he also said there were circulating revolutionary books in courts.
What is the need for the media trial? The matter is already before the court.
Revolutionary books.
Listen,
is not.
That is why I said the conduct of the senior lawyer is professional misconduct. It's professional misconduct, and I will not engage in any professional misconduct.
Okay, let's go to your experience during the protest. Was there any time that a foreigner came to you as one of the protesters, telling you to topple this government? How does it look like a protest to unseat the government?
Does ending bad governance? Why should anybody have an issue with a protest to end bad governance? Is it that they want bad governance to continue? I don't understand these guys. Okay, so somebody has an issue with protesters demanding. How does an end bad governance protest? How does it become a protest to topple the government? If not unnecessary paranoia. The unfortunate part of this issue is that we have buccaneers supporting the government. People who do not have regard for rule of law. People who do not believe that protest should be condoned. The body language of the government suggests that they don't want protests. And that the reason why they are doing all this is because protest is coming on October 1.
Are you sure that protest will hold?
Protest will always hold.
What is going on now? Is anybody going to allow their child
to go? That was what people said when the military were killing people. The protests were still happening in this country.
All right, I'll come back to you. Let's go to Adviser people.
Yes, IJ.
Looking at the issue beforehand now, I don't want you to go into the details that is before the court, but the government is already charging them, and they have arraigned them in court on charges of inciting mutiny because they protested. Can we take a look at the legal side of protests? Is protest a legal instrument? Or protest is, like the lawyer said, it wasn't protest but rather rioting?
Anyway, I beg to disagree with him. The NNA senior advocate have demonstrated on the national television the case that is going on in court. Protest is a constitutional right granted by Section 40 of the Constitution. The right to freedom of assembly and association is encompassing, such that people of Nigeria can congregate, can come together with respect to protesting and demonstrating to show anger or demonstrate against the government policy or what have you. So it is a constitutional right. Now, the people of Nigeria also has right to freedom of movement, move from one point to another point, and that right is constitutionally granted, and nobody whatsoever, not even a court of law, can take away that right to freedom of movement or assembly and association, except as required under Section 45 of the Constitution, which says that the right to movement, assembly and association, family life, conscience and religion, as the case may be, 34, 37, 38, 39, 40, and 41, can be derogated by law reasonable, justifiable in a democratic society. That's Section 45 of the Constitution. Now, what is law reasonable, justifiable in a democratic society? It must be a law passed through an act of the National Assembly, derogating such right. Maybe in a case of state of emergency declared for when the country is at war. Now, and the other categories of exceptions listed under that context. Now, I beg to disagree with him that, the truth remains that these persons were picked on the street of Nigeria from 1st to 10th of August 2024. It is in the public domain. They were picked on the street. They were not picked before that day. Some were picked maybe after, or as he has alluded now, thereafter. But they were picked because they were on the street demonstrating, protesting, whatever name called, which is their right. Whether some persons have hijacked it or given it a criminal connotation that day, because there was a video clip that some persons were hired to infiltrate and cause havoc, so as to give it a criminal connotation, as the case may be. That's another case. But the people have right to protest. But the law requires you too, when you are protesting, to protest within the ambit of the law. If you are protesting and somebody you have to block somebody from going to Wuse Market to exercise his own right of movement. You are no more protesting. If you are protesting, you see a mango and you have to put it by force. That means you have committed stealing. If you have to beat somebody on the way while protesting, you have committed an offense. So these are all exceptions listed therein. But the right to protest and movement is enshrined in the Constitution. The court have interpreted right to freedom of movement and association in litany and cornucopia of cases. I listed here before now the case of William and Majokondomi, which was a 1962 case where the Supreme Court, the legal advisor of then Action Group, was restrained from coming out from his house in some kilometer radius for one thing or the other, under state of emergency or decree or whatever. But the Supreme Court said no, that that act does not constitute a law reasonable, justifiable in a democratic society. They will restrain him from having his right of movement. You must also know the case of Sugar Badama versus Minister of Internal Affairs. Sugar Badama was a member of Borno State House of Assembly then. He was accused because of political issues in Borno State. He was deported to Chad. He's not a citizen of Nigeria. Supreme Court frowned at it and said it violated his right to freedom of movement. Then you know the case of Rishabakaba versus DSS, when he was about to travel out of Nigeria for a conference. The DSS arrested him and seized his passport. He was asked to report. The Supreme Court, he went to court to ventilate his grievances, and the Supreme Court said no, that act also violates his right to freedom of movement. So the court has protected this right as enshrined in Chapter 4 of the Constitution. Now, for the offense for which these parties have been charged, we will not delve into discussing the nitty-gritty of the offense. But based on what the learned senior advocate, who is of the prosecution, said on national television, it won't be too fair for the corporate image of Nigeria and our conscience to begin to give these activities of protest a criminal connotation, rioting, in the case, because if you look at treason is a serious criminal offense under section 410 of the penal code, and which carries up to death penalty, and treasonable felony has life imprisonment. Even mutiny, which is also inciting a military officer, security officer, with a view to overthrow the government. I wouldn't know how they have the information. Yes, I wouldn't know how they came about this. Maybe there is information they have which we may not have, or whatever it is. But the truth remains that all this requires proof. At the end of the day, will they be able to prove these offenses? Because these are serious offenses in law. I wouldn't know what they have, which I don't know. But people, when people are accused of committing offense, they are presumed to be innocent until contrary is proved. Yes. Under section 45 of the Constitution. So these persons who have been accused of criminal offense should be able to enjoy the immunity and the protections of the law against media publicity, against media trial, against whatever culture, whatever thing, even torture. Some people have been accused of being tortured and subjected to inhuman and degrading treatment. Contrary to provision of section 34 of those that were arrested. Yes, that's what we were told. That some people were subjected to all sorts of torture and all what have you. And section 34 of the Constitution gives everybody right to dignity of a human person. That you cannot, in the case of mortgage against Board of Custom and Exercise, that locus classicus case on the principles of dignity of human persons. There are some persons who are accused of importing contraband goods in Lagos State. So Board of Custom and Exercise constituted a task force that went into the market to go and confiscate those purported fake products. And because of that, we need to throw tear gas on the market women and using all sorts of things, tear gas and all those stuff. The court interpreted it and said that it amounts to breach of right to dignity of human person to use such treatment on people. So these people who are detained, either in detention, they have right for dignity of human person. Even in your detention, you have to protect them. So when you begin to now subject them to such treatment, it will be contrary to the provisions of the law. In a democracy like ours, rule of law must triumph in our body system. When a matter is already before the court, like he has rightly pointed out, parties are refrained from making comments for a matter which is already sub judice. But when it matter borders on constitutional rights, which is enshrined in the Constitution, we can at a liberty to discuss those rights as enshrined in the Constitution. I want to employ the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to, as a father of the whole nation, people are angry and they have to show they are angry. They were angry. They were on the street to protest. They call it end bad governance, whatever the case may be. So, like I said before, I wouldn't know the information they have.
But that depends on the bad governance, the interpretation of that word.
Yes.
Because if you're aiming bad governance and the government is not comfortable with that language,
yes,
probably some persons will say the government may want to say you are indirectly saying that they are in power and their policies are unpopular.
It is their constitutional right to protest. Whether they target bad governance or end hunger protests, it's a matter of nomenclature. It is their right to protest. The only angle, and I may not like personally, is the issue of destruction, like they listed about.
I wanted to go there.
Yes, that's the only angle. The flying of flags of another country, and all those destruction at Kano State Government House, ACC, and the judiciary in the
exactly.
So these are angles that may seem to go against the provisions of the right. Because if you are waiving your right and you commit offense, police can arrest where there is a reasonable suspicion, not even a suspicion, where there is actual commission of offense.
Okay, but let me come to Mr. Adeodu. You see, Barrister has already said, even when you are carrying out your rights as a citizen to protest, to say, oh, I do not like what is going on in my country, when you make mistake, it becomes an offense. But are we seeing those that took part in the protests in some part of the north being arrested among the 10 that were arrested? Because what they have said here now is that, one, they were carrying foreign flags. The destruction of government property was done in the northern part of this country. But these 10 persons were arrested in Abuja. Am I right, Deji? The 10 persons that are being arraigned now were arrested in Abuja. Were they among those that took part in that protest where people were carrying placards, burning houses, destroying government property? Can you say that they were among them?
So let me first say it categorically. I'm not appealing to the president. Let him continue this tyranny that he's doing. We like it. This is what we expect from him. You understand? You know, when the African people have a proverb that when the gods want to finish you, they first of all make you run mad.
Deji, we just have to be careful.
No, I'm referring to anybody.
Okay.
I'm not referring
to anybody. Making statements.
I'm speaking in parables.
Okay.
That we want the government to continue in this line. You should continue to arrest protesters because more protests are coming, and they should continue to charge people with terrorism while they leave bandits to fester and go stronger all over the country. You know, the most important thing about things like, we've seen this dance before. The military did more than this, but where are they today? So, you know, is it not better to allow protests now than for the election to become a protest against the government? Is it not better to allow protests now and take the lessons from the protests? Because very simple, what Nigerians are saying is that, oh, so you're carrying a load on your head. Somebody said, oh, the protesters are saying, like, the reality of Nigerians, many people that not saying anything wrong in government are people who are in government or who are benefiting from government. The generality of the country, they are feeling the impact of the bad policies of this government. And you ask the question whether the government does not like the kind of protest.
The name.
It is not their prerogative to like or not to like what citizens are protesting about. Citizens have the right to protest. It's not a right to be conferred on citizens by security agencies. It's not a right to be conferred on citizens by the president. It's not even a right to be conferred by the courts. It's a right that is inalienable, conferred by the Constitution. We, the people of Nigeria, are the ones that confer the rights on ourselves. The court, the responsibility of the court is to interpret the Constitution. You understand? So the idea of saying that, oh, we only really like a protest that is okay. Why is it that the government does not have anything against? Why are pro-government protesters? After all, pro-government protesters were out on 1st of August. Why are they not facing treasonable felonies?
That's what I was asking you. What is the issue? What are those other people that came out and
now they're talking about issue of holding flag.
Yes.
Holding flag is not a crime known to law, except if we amend our laws today. Holding a foreign flag is not a crime known to law, and the law says you can only charge and arrest someone for an offense known to law.
Okay, what about destruction of government property?
Who among the protesters destroyed any government property?
You saw what happened in some states in the northern part of the country.
The law is clear. Before you charge someone, there must be men's right. There must be a meeting of the mind. People who are arrested at different locations in the country, we got them together and lump and charge. Anyway, I don't want to even go into the charge. I don't want to go into the charge at all. What we are saying is very simple, that citizens have the right to protest in their own country. And that right is another right that cannot be taken away. Having said that, it's also important to note that government at all levels must be seen to be protecting the rights of the people, not infringing on it.
Okay, but Deji, let me also ask you this question. Yes, they have the right to protest, but when the protest becomes a bad one, you know that it will affect another person, and that's where another person's right starts from. So when it becomes violent at that time, will you call that the right to protest?
You see, it is the responsibility and duty of security agencies to ensure that protests do not degenerate. After all, they deployed more security personnel to stop this protest than to stop insecurity in the country. Imagine if they put the energy and the resource that was used to stop this protest into fixing this country, and they will be better off. So, in Abuja alone, the police, they secured an order to detain 124 of 25 protesters. Only 10 were arraigned today. Where are the remaining 115 protesters? That's a question we're asking. We want them to be charged or released. Some of the protesters that were arraigned today in court were released on administrative bail before. They brought back themselves back because they were asked to report severally. So we will not go into the ingredients and the elements in the contained in the charge, because we don't want to be say anything like subjudice that will make the court think in one way or the other. So what we want to focus on is the substance of the protest. What were the protests about? The protest was about ending hunger in the country. The protest was about reducing price of petrol. That's staying on the issue. The protest is about amending the constitution to have a more people-friendly constitution. Yes, one of the main reasons why government wants to charge protesters with terrorism now, and why they are not charging bandits and terrorists in the north and south part of the country with treasonable felonies, because the protest said that politicians should cut the cost of governance. Of course, they are angry. That's why they now said, oh, let's teach them a lesson. They want to take away our bread. They want to take away our allowances. Oh, come on, let's fight terrorism charges against them. So that is just the only explanation.
All right, Deji, let's because our time is already gone. We are already being warned that we have less minutes here. As it is now, a lot of persons are already feeling the pinch. And if these persons are saying they are still coming out to protest because life is not still easy. Just this afternoon, somebody called me from Port Harcourt that fuel is 1,000 from the pump price. And if you see the queue in Abuja, I couldn't buy fuel. The car I have never driven, I've left for over 3 months, is what I had to bring out today, because it was difficult for me as a journalist to go stay in the queue for 12 hours waiting to buy fuel. So this is one thing that is making Nigerians react. But as it stands now, where is the future of this young men? Protesters who are still saying they will take to the streets. And he said it, with what is happening now, people will not come out.
Yes, I will say for emphasis that the transcendental movement of man from state of nature into society was based on social contract. It was based on this social contract that government was instituted. Because in every human affair, man is a social animal. There must be some kind of conduct to regulate the activities of man. So the primary purpose of government being instituted under a social contract theory between man is to provide for social amenities, education, health, welfare, all the social amenities. But the government in this context have failed to these expectations. But I will blame it on the government, and I will blame it to legal instrument, the 1999 Constitution, that under Chapter 2, Fundamental Objective and Directive Principles of State Policy, have refused to the right to education, right to social amenities, right to go to school, right to do this, remain a dead letter. The court interpreted to say, oh, it's unenforceable right in Nigeria. Not just in abroad, you can enforce it when government refuse to pay your school fees, to provide certain things, you go to court and challenge it, and you have your right. But in Nigeria, you cannot enforce those rights under Chapter 2. The court said, oh, our hands are tied. Those rights have been declared to be an aspiration or intention which government want to achieve in future. So until we enforce those rights under the Chapter 2 of the Constitution through constitutional amendment, we will get nowhere. The right to freedom of assembly and association and protest is constitutional. We don't need to speak too much grammar about it. President Buhari in 2003 led a protest in Kano State in the case of Buhari versus IGP. He led a protest after the presidential election, which of them were declared. He went to court. He went to protest with I think ACN or that party that time, ANPP, and they went to IG to provide. IG went to block them and arrest some of them. They went to court, and the court declared their right to protest.
Thank you so much.
So I enjoy the people of Nigeria to believe that God exists. Be law abiding, trust in God. One day God will intervene, because this hardship is getting to a point that when you see your brother, you start slapping your brother.
Thank you so much, Barrister.
And the by ekenekwe ni mono edikono si webito ogono igebo ya bi ife nnukwu ozi dị oke mkpa ejimakia wee bịa n'iru akwụkwọ na Igbo media bụ ebe isi wee na-wetara ya bụ nnukwu ozi dị oke mkpa gbasịta maka ihe na-eme n'obodo anyị nọ n'ime ya, ana gbasịta maka nwere onwe ndị Igbo na-azọ, ana gbasịta maka Maazị Nnamdi Kanu's ladies. Dịka ị nụrụ ihe nwanne anyị nwoke kwuru n'iru akwụkwọ, ka efi were ikwu n'ụdị nke gị asị gị kwuo ka efi were ikwu maka na otu aka o jedebe njọ ọ ya adịkwanụ mma. Ọgwụ na ọtụ ụmụnne m, achọrọ m ka unu tinyere anyị alụ nke unu ife unu chere n'iru akwụkwọ, ikwucha ya bụ ife kapa arụsị ya kwụrụtụ ụmụnne anyị ndị ọzọ ntị, darụrụ nne na ụmụnne m bụ mụ na-ege ntị. Anyị na-ekene ndị nnekunu si na-esoyere anyị esiri ngwa nke